The Toronto Raptors dominate the Miami Heat, 116-89 the final of Game 7. Toronto will advance to their first ever conference final to face the Cleveland Cavaliers. What's going on, YouTube? I'm Mr. Wheels, welcoming you to another edition of Sports Talk. And guys, I wasn't able to see the game live this afternoon. I was out of town for the afternoon. However, I've seen the highlights. I'm caught up on the stats. I'm going to break down Game 7 and look ahead to the conference final with you guys. So stay tuned for that. Alright, so Game 7 versus Miami. After letting a potential 3-1 series lead slip through their fingers and losing in Game 6, the Toronto Raptors come back with a dominant performance by Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozen in Game 7 to wipe out the Miami Heat. Kyle Lowry led the way, 35 points, 7 rebounds, 9 assists, and 4 steals. DeMar DeRozen backed him up, 28 points, 8 rebounds, and what can you say about Bismack Biyombo in the absence of Jonas Valanciunas, stepping up big time, 2 major slam dunks, a beast on the boards, 16 rebounds, 17 points. Most notably, what I see is Toronto kept Dwayne Wade and Goran Dragic, who have been killers in this series. They kept them to under 20 points. The Raptors bench really contributed, kind of limited a bit. The only major contribution was from Patrick Patterson in double figures. Corey Joseph really didn't have much of a contribution offensively, but the Raptors' defense was there. And here's another notable thing for the Raptors. They outchanced Miami 27-9 in second chance points. And there you have it, the final, 116-89, moving on to their first conference final. And let's talk about the conference final for a minute. Now, on paper and what we've seen so far in the playoffs, you could say that, this is as far as Toronto's going to go, and they're going to get swept in 4. Now, a pessimist would say that. I'm more of an optimist. Even though the first 2 games of the conference final are in Cleveland, I like the chances of Toronto potentially splitting the first 2 games in Cleveland and at least, again, splitting the first 2 games in Toronto. I think Toronto is the most well-rounded team, even with the injury to Jonas Valanciunas, the most well-rounded team that Cleveland will have to play so far in these playoffs. They're in the Final Four for a reason, and, while Cleveland has Kevin Love and Tristan Thompson and Timothy Mozgov in the middle, and they're stronger in the middle, even with a healthy JV, I think they have a little bit of an advantage. Toronto counters that with a better backcourt. And, I know some people may be looking at me and thinking, well, how can you say that when you got LeBron James in the backcourt? Well, it's easy. Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozen, when those 2 guys are on, they're hard to stop. And, you can't take anything away from the Miami Heat. They forced the game 7. I know Cleveland's been on a roll in these playoffs, but their roll is about to get a little bit harder to move on to the NBA Finals, in my opinion. I'm predicting the Eastern Conference Final will go 7 games, and yes, I'm picking Toronto to win. Major upset. This has been a year of firsts for the Toronto Raptors. I'm picking the Toronto Raptors right now, saying it right here on this channel. The Toronto Raptors will win the conference final in 7 games in Cleveland and shock the world to move on to the NBA Finals. That's all I got to say for this video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. I will definitely be watching every game of the conference final. Had something else to do this afternoon, and I couldn't watch the game because what I had to do was very important. But I will be watching every game of the conference final, and I will be making videos on the conference final, so stay tuned for that. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Leave me a comment down below. Tell me what you thought of the Eastern semifinal, and tell me what your thoughts are on the Eastern Conference Finals. Toronto and Cleveland coming up later this week. I'll see you next time.